Hey guys, what's up and welcome to the Bolder Side of Wellness. I am Lisa Barrows. You guys all know my co-host Ashley Palmer. I want to encourage you to follow us on all our social media at the Bolder Side of Wellness on Instagram. You can go to our website, bouldersideofwellness.com. Follow us on YouTube. Also, make sure you're subscribing on Apple and on Spotify. I want to welcome you to today's show. We are talking to the women of the Carin Center, which they are working with trauma and also, some Reiki and energy work. It's an awesome conversation, another awesome local business, and love talking to them. Just make sure, again, if you're not staying up to date with the podcast, you can also follow me at Honestly Lisa B, or follow Ashley at Ashley Palmer Fit on Instagram, and hope you enjoy the show. All right, guys, I want to welcome our guests today, Colleen and Kathy. They run the Carin Center, which works with trauma. We're going to talk about energy work and Reiki, but I'm going to let them introduce themselves and talk about what they do and why they're here today.
All right, well, thank you. We're happy to be here, Barry. Just to talk about the Carin Center. We're right here in Plymouth, and so I started the Carin Center during COVID. So I'm a therapist, and the type of therapy that I practice is EMDR. It's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and it's a therapy that's evidence-based and known to be very effective, proven to be very effective in treating trauma. And so during COVID, during the whole upheaval of everything that we knew, that's when I got certified in EMDR and decided that I wanted to have a place where people could come in for therapy, but also for the additional body work and energy work that accompanies healing. And so Kathy joined the Carin Center about a year ago.
Yes.
And
it's kind of ironic. I'm a board certified holistic nurse, which people sometimes think they're holistic, but it's a certification by the American Holistic Nursing Association. It's a big deal. Been that for over 20 years, in nursing for more decades than that. And I've also studied so many different modalities because I've always had that passion and that longing to do more than what Western medicine does. Mm-hmm. Need to see the whole person, mind, body, spirit. Mm-hmm. Spirit is like a really big thing for me.
Right, okay.
And ironically, through COVID, while Colleen was studying this modality I didn't know, I had reached out to her. All through COVID, I was building little cairns. I take beach walks, and I was like, I'm balancing, I'm grounding. It was like this creative process.
Right.
And then we hooked up, and what's her center called?
Oh, right.
Isn't that? So, I knew I had come to the right place.
Yeah.
Right.
And Kathy and I used to work together.
Yes.
For Cranberry Hospice.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Here in Plymouth and the surrounding areas, but. So I was a social worker and Kathy was a hospice nurse, and we teamed up on many cases.
Clients, patients.
Yeah, so we've always remained in touch.
Yes.
Great
Funny how
team.
things work out.
Right.
Know, isn't it?
Yeah. And that said too, I know Colleen's way of being with people, and I trust it.
Right.
I know she has their highest good in her heart.
Right.
And she knows that about me.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
it's pretty much a heart-centered, spirit-filled kind of.
Yeah, we love that though.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So your center, you're dealing with trauma. Is this specific trauma, any trauma, childhood now?
That's a great question. So when it comes to trauma, there are big T traumas and little t traumas. Basically at the end of the day, so little t traumas are the traumas that happen along the way, such as relationship trauma, perhaps death of a loved one. And the big T traumas are the big T, a mass shooting, an earthquake, a fire. And so when it all comes together, what trauma is an overwhelm on the nervous system that gets stuck in the body and continues to show up as if it's in the present with sensations, with negative beliefs about yourself and the world, and then with resulting behaviors. And so now I lost track of what you asked me.
So you do every trauma just
Thank you.
yeah. No worries.
Yes.
That was a great answer.
So I really focus on the big T traumas. I have a particular type of therapy. It's called intensive EMDRs, which are extended sessions. That's I really engage people in the intensive EMDR for the big T traumas. For the little T traumas and complex PTSD, which really extends back to childhood, that's usually a little bit of a longer term relationship. And so what I focus on is anxiety, panic attacks, PTSD, acute PTSD, recent traumatic events, and complicated grief. We can't therapy away mourning and grief, but we certainly can help people cope with perhaps some negative beliefs or distorted beliefs, or the traumatic holding on to of images around a loved one's death.
Yeah, I think that's so true. You're never going to not miss that person,
That's
but
right.
you can cope better.
Yeah, you can learn to live with it.
Okay.
Yes,
Beautifully
with the
said.
loss.
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
Colleen, what's the trauma when you're watching, like what we saw in the
Vicarious.
Vicarious, that was the other
Yes.
thing.
Okay.
Yes.
Vicarious. So
Yeah.
there's also that, and the trauma that I think is a general experience of people right now, seeing things that are going on in the world,
Yeah.
really crazy weather. People are feeling more stress,
Yes.
more anxiety beyond some pretty major traumas that they've already had.
Right.
So I'm not the psychotherapist.
Right.
I'm more, I teach people how to come to calm in their center.
Okay.
Teach them meditation, self-care. I created a mini workshop for 2 hours where I teach some vagus nerve yoga, because I'm a yoga therapist too, or teacher. Teach the meditation, creative visualization, sound healing, like incorporate some of my favorites.
Okay.
Say
Mindful breathing.
mindful breathing, that's one of the main things,
Yeah,
breathing.
that's a good one.
Yeah, I had a friend who used to say to me years ago, breathe.
Yeah.
Breathe. I didn't realize I was up here all the time,
Mm-hmm.
not the deep cleansing.
Oh yeah.
So my focus is to try and help people come to a space of homeostasis,
Okay.
because our body really intrinsically knows how to heal, but it can't do it when we're crazed and we're just so hyped up.
Oh yeah.
And it's like an epidemic of people being hyped up.
Yeah.
Yes.
You see it when you're driving,
Yeah.
you see it in the store. So to try and kind of bring that collective
Right.
down to a more peaceful way of being in the world.
Right.
Well, we live in such a world where everything is like go, 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 go.
Yes.
And I feel like when I started to travel more is when I realized it, because like everywhere but here, I feel like
Yeah.
it's just like on whether you're in an island or you're in Europe or wherever, everything is just like go with the flow. Like just let the day like be the day, and
Yes.
don't try to change anything. You'll get to where you need to be. You don't need to rush it.
Yeah.
So I feel like this big issue that we have in like the States.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you're right.
And it's glorified that way too.
Yes. Oh, glorified busy.
Yeah.
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 It's like let's glorify like taking care of yourself and like maybe not
Right.
being so busy all the time. Of course, like we have busy like weeks, like those happen. Those
Yes.
are inevitable.
Yes.
But like, it shouldn't be like that every single week.
Yes.
You're gonna burn yourself out.
Yes.
Right.
And as a nurse, we're known for caring for everybody
But yourself.
but ourselves.
Yeah.
That's like a huge life lesson for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I teach this, because you teach what you need to learn.
Oh, yeah.
No
we
kidding.
talk about that all the time because we're in that. I think it's a helper role. If you're somebody who
Yes.
takes care of others, you do everything else, and at the end of the night, you're like, well, I'm done. So how am I going to take care of myself?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the other thing that I think anxiety is like so normalized. Everybody
Yes.
has anxiety now.
Everybody has anxiety.
Yes.
And like that's
Anxiety,
not-
ADHD, and bipolar.
Yeah, and it's not like a good normal.
And then the
Like-
others are narcissists.
Yes, 100%. That's
So
the
we
other
have a
like.
bunch of labels.
Yes.
Yes.
It's so easy to throw those out these
Yes.
days. But yeah, so like anxiety is not a normal feeling. Being anxious about something in a moment is like normal, but
Yes.
not always.
Right, but we
Yeah.
get stuck there.
100%. Oh yeah.
I was at a holistic nursing conference, and they were talking about children that are diagnosed with ADD or ADHD.
Mhm.
And there's a new term in the holistic, arena, nature deficit disorder.
Huh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, when my
Okay.
youngest was younger,
like that.
as soon as he went to school, he needs Ritalin, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I would open the door, go play outside, he'd climb trees, he'd look under rocks, and guess what? He grounded and he
Mhm.
calmed.
Yeah.
And that's what he needed.
Right. Well, and actually finding certain diets help with that rather than going on medication, like reducing gluten in a
Yeah.
diet can help a little bit with
Yeah.
ADHD symptoms. So like it doesn't have to be that. There's
Yeah.
other ways.
Right.
Being outside,
Right.
getting in nature, getting away from a screen.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes, yes, yes.
Well,
Big
with
one.
the screens, so what we see with anxiety and trauma, I relate it all back to
Right.
overload, trauma, stuck. And so what we see with the screens and the addiction to screens and other substances, so that is the hypoarousal part of our nervous system
Mhm.
that shuts us down and disconnects and numbs us up. And the road rage or the increase in anger or the busy difficulty slowing down, that's the hyperarousal.
Okay.
And so you may have heard of fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got
Mm-mm.
fight or flight is in the hyperarousal, and then the freeze response. The under-recognized response, the freeze response, the numb response, that's the hypoarousal.
Okay.
And so that's where the mind-body connection comes in, and especially with trauma, because what we want to do is be in our window of tolerance,
Mm-hmm.
right? So up here is the hyperarousal, down here is the hypoarousal. Trauma activates those different responses, and we notice those different responses in our body,
Yeah.
in our nervous system. And so that's where this mind, body, and spirit connection is just so healing.
Right.
It's about regulating that nervous system,
Right.
bringing us back into our window of tolerance.
That is so true. When I'm really stressed out, it's really easy to zone out on my phone.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like literally relating to it right now. Like, oh,
Yes.
Instagram, because I don't have to think for a little bit. What's Ashley up to here?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
it's so true though. That's so funny. I've never thought of it like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Dipping out.
yeah. So talk about your practice. So when somebody comes in to see you, kind of how does that look?
So most of my referrals will come through either my website or through Psychology Today, which
Mhm.
is, an online, database of
Mhm.
therapists. So usually I will have had a phone consult
Okay.
and, decide if it's going to be a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
And then big thing, as far as I'm concerned, is meeting my clients where they're at. So I might have kind of a preconceived, this is what they're dealing with,
Mhm.
this is what they identified as their diagnosis, and this is what the kind of treatment goals are going to be. But we need to hear from our people.
Mhm.
What are their goals? What's showing up for them? So the first thing that we start with is I ask them to tell me the things that are on the top of their mind that they want to make sure that I know. And then always through the first session and then subsequent sessions, I will ask, where do you hold that in your body?
Okay.
That I ask 100 times a day. So where is that located in your body? Where do you notice that in your body? And so that really helps to inform where we're going to be going in terms of identifying targets that we're going to be working on, and then moving into the healing process.
Okay. All right. So that's when it comes over to Kathy, or?
So Kathy, when I refer clients to Kathy, usually it will come up over the course of therapy.
Okay.
That kind of identification with energy or with spirit. You hear about empaths, right? That's kind of, that's a buzzword, and it's you know, it's definitely significant.
Okay.
You know, there are people who are empaths, more empathic, feeling, carrying people's energy. And so when we start to kind of notice that showing up, that's when I'll recommend maybe considering a Reiki treatment. I'm constantly suggesting yoga, meditation. And that's really, if you think about the nervous system, we want to be able to help people develop their own boundaries for what's coming in to the nervous system.
Right.
What kind of sensations are coming into the body, and help them be able to regulate them. And Reiki is a wonderful way of helping with that.
Right.
Reiki, as well as heart math and mindful breathing.
Right.
Kathy teaches
It's given
about.
them a toolbox,
Right.
you know, so they've come and said, these are my issues, can you help me?
Right.
And yes, that EMDR, I've seen it work, it's amazing. We actually had a 2-day workshop with an organization that had some major trauma.
Okay.
And it was interesting because it was all tough guys in the room, you know, former policemen, Army, Air Force, Navy.
That's
Seriously,
stuff. Yeah.
I'm fine. I don't have a problem
Yeah,
with this,
yeah.
you know.
Right. Oh yeah.
And then when they accessed it in Colleen's beautiful way of doing it, from 0 to 10, it was 10.
Right.
And by the end of the 2 days, we had people at 2
That's awesome.
and 4 and 3.
That's the level of distress, what
Right.
Kathy's referring
Yeah,
to.
thanks.
Okay.
But it was
0
just
to
so
10.
beautiful to see.
Yeah.
So it's giving them tools, and
Right.
then yeah, my piece is again giving them other tools, like kind of I would say Colleen is kind of like the more major. I don't know, and I'm more. People don't have to say, oh, I'm having a major issue to
Right.
come in my direction.
Okay.
I've taught Reiki to actually a lot of hospice staff that we
Okay.
had worked with.
Yeah.
Because I did that years ago when I was working there, and the people that were there were like, oh my God,
Right.
this stuff works. Like,
Yeah.
no, they couldn't believe they didn't have to load people up with medication. They could help them in other ways.
Right.
So, so people in healthcare access it too, so they can
Okay.
better help the people they're caring for.
Right.
And I don't know if we said, but I offer a very deep discount for veterans
Okay.
and people that are
Yeah.
healthcare providers.
Okay.
Yes, we're very committed to first responders, veterans, active military, and you know, police and fire, and during COVID, our medical professionals.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
In
100%.
particular,
Yeah, I had a lot of
Trauma.
nurses reach out.
Yeah.
Vicarious trauma.
That's trauma.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 I think oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna suggest that we in terms of, you know, kind of grasping the concept of energy work, you're holding the ball
Oh.
of energy.
Yeah.
You know, even before we end today, maybe we could, you know, just do a little bit of a demonstration.
Absolutely.
Because,
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, people think, you know, energy work, okay, yep. You know,
Right.
what is that all about? That's, you know, super woo.
So my son was a Green Beret.
Okay.
Okay, serious man,
Yeah.
right? Wacky woo woo mama. I've always been.
Right.
But it is with such reverence now.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
he gets that this is real.
Right.
Yeah. I just had to throw that in there.
I think our last 4 guests, just on touching what you're talking about, have talked about like the men in that age group.
Yeah.
Because that was the generation of like suck it up.
Yes. Yes.
It's just we have to get through it. And we recently talked to a spa acupuncturist and a woman who does like talk therapy and all of that. And she says she's like, that's the underserved population as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it was just like get through it.
Yes.
My father saw a therapist for a little bit. He said it was a shrink. I was like, no, this is something for you to talk to. But that's his generation.
Right.
So I think that's awesome that you're doing that, especially with the veterans seeing all
Yes.
those terrible things.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
you know, in terms of treating trauma, so a lot of times you will hear, especially people who kind of float in the hypoarousal, right? The disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
You'll hear them say, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't need to talk to anybody about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, EMDR therapy, yes, there's talk that goes on as a way of communicating, but the actual processing of the trauma, the work is not done in the talk therapy. The work is done in the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And so for this, you know, group, this population that we're talking about right now, that's what brings a lot of these individuals to EMDR treatment, is because it's if you think about our crisis response system in our body,
Mhm.
right? Our amygdala, the limbic system, our brain stem, right? That takes in over like information to let us know if we're safe and if we're going to live, right?
Mhm.
Think about right out of the chute, as soon as a baby is born, even when the baby is still in utero, there's a system already designed to recognize danger, to
Mhm.
recognize survival,
Right.
life or death. And so you'll notice a baby has a startle reflex. You can clap, or if there's a loud noise, you'll see an infant
Mhm.
still be startled. So that's the nervous system
Right.
activating that startle response. So you're not going to be able to talk to an infant.
Right.
You're not going to have talk therapy with a 2-year-old. Trauma happens in our bodies long before we've developed language.
Right.
Or reasoning.
Yep. And so that's where the EMDR comes in. Any kind of the therapy that really is accessing the nervous system, that's why it's effective, because talk therapy sometimes can be re-traumatizing,
Mm-hmm.
telling the story over and over again. It's also a way of disconnecting. If you can talk and tell the story over and over again, you're not accessing what's happening in here, and you're not accessing what's happening in your nervous system.
Okay.
And so when we do the EMDR treatment, it's allowing the brain and the nervous system and the body to process
Gotcha.
voluntarily. It's putting, just kind of putting the images, putting the sensations, and really putting those beliefs out there so that you can adaptively process the information and
Gotcha.
move it along.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm like,
No, I think it makes
Same
sense.
here.
Yeah,
Every day I'm still like,
yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It is.
yeah, I'm a total geek.
No, that's
But it's passion
Yeah.
for it. I love
Yes.
it when people
Yeah.
totally dive into something like that. Yeah.
yeah. It's interesting that you said it happens in the body before you like express it.
Mhm.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that fight or
It does,
flight.
it does.
Yeah.
It's a
Before you know what's
natural
going on.
response. It's protective.
Good.
So you have people, like, who go through life and you're like, I don't know why that bothers me so much, or I just keep getting this anxiety and I don't know why. Well, oftentimes, there are things that shock the nervous system way before you have language. So think about if there's a difficult delivery,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've had clients who talk about they heard from their parents that maybe their shoulders got stuck when they were being born, and they had to, it was a complicated delivery, but they were stuck. And what they noticed over the course of their life, and when they first came in, they talked about feeling stuck, feeling trapped, right?
Wow.
I have a hard time making decisions. I feel stuck. I feel like I can't move. And so we kept kind of processing that and, kind of working away at it. And then eventually this client asked her mom about her delivery, and
She was
Fair
physically
enough.
stuck.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Well, I mean, so I'm super sensitive to loud noises. I always have been, and my mom's always been convinced, it's way back when, because I'm 37 years old, they couldn't wake me up when I was in utero, so they put a big pot over and hit it with a spoon to wake up the baby. Legit, literally recently I was like, you guys lying to me my whole life? They're like, no, that happened. And I've always been super sensitive, and they're convinced that's why, but it makes sense. And it's not like a horrible thing, but if there's loud noise, like my response is more
It's
than
a
most.
startle response.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
she's always been convinced that's why, so that makes sense.
It absolutely does.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
too funny.
There's the puzzle piece.
Right.
And it helps you process it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you understand it on a different level.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I told that story recently, somebody's like, your parents lied to you. So I asked them, like, no, they really did that, because now they don't do that to wake up the baby in utero. But yeah.
Yeah, but can't you imagine
Yeah.
that happening?
Right.
Yeah.
So that
yeah.
makes so much sense. That's kind of crazy.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So talk a little about the process of Reiki.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
So, it's I know it's really hard to like boil it down,
Right.
but it's energy work, and I go with the premise that we all have this energy in us. It's a way you learn how to connect with, like, my word is the divine.
Okay.
Okay. And even if you don't have a religion, there's a source, there's a divine, there's one something.
Right.
And maybe we're all it, but
Right.
so a Reiki master or Reiki teacher has learned how to harness that energy,
Okay.
bring it through him or her, and direct it
Okay.
to the individual looking for help. And what's beautiful about Reiki is it knows where to go. Like, I don't have to know anything when I come to it.
Okay.
I ask for that help. I ask that this person, sometimes I'll even say a prayer and they'll say it with me or not, and say, let them get what they need. And
Okay.
it's really interesting. When I first started, I would feel whatever they were feeling.
Okay.
I would get nauseous. I would have pain in my knee. It was, and I had to say, thank you for telling me.
Right.
Not mine. No thanks,
Right.
So it directs the energy, and it kind of rebalances the chakras and the energy centers, and leaves a person. Sometimes people will say, I don't know what happened, but I'm just calm and I'm just content. Right. And sometimes people will see colors, or it's very individualized and different.
Right.
And it's individualized for me when I do it too.
Right.
And I've done it in different arenas. Recently, I had a friend's sister who had a family member dying.
Okay.
And she asked me to come in, because she knew I'd been a hospice nurse, and provide Reiki for the whole family.
Okay.
And it was really kind of amazing.
Yeah.
Like the one tough daughter,
Right.
she just cried the whole time.
Right.
But that's good. Let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go.
Right.
Another one said, oh my God, I feel like family is just here and we're just enjoying one another.
Right.
Like the grief was not so profound.
Right.
So it does what it needs to do.
Right.
And I feel very, very blessed to be in a space where I can help people in this way.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
It's sacred.
It's sacred work.
It really
Thank
is.
you. It is
Right.
sacred work. It really is. And I do think I bring to it a lot of the other things that I've learned in my
Right.
life and career.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll get messages and I'll share them, and
Right.
but it's always amazing to
So-
me. It's always
yeah.
amazing.
When I first worked with Kathy, it always stuck with me. I remember her saying when we were going into a house together, to meet with a family or meet with a patient, Kathy shared that every time before she enters a home or a room, to take care of a patient, she stops and she says a prayer and she breathes and she recognizes this is a sacred space.
Okay.
And that stuck
I
with
didn't
me.
remember that. Thank
Oh
you.
my gosh, it always stuck with me.
Right.
Yeah, I was, like goofy social worker, went in with the nurse, okay. But I remember her saying that, and it really impacted my work from then on.
Oh,
Right.
Thank you. That's beautiful. I didn't remember saying that.
I love that.
It's a sacred space.
I do try to function that way
Yeah.
and remember it, because otherwise it just
Right.
doesn't work.
I think it was Rebecca who said she got Reiki last week. One of our guests said she got Reiki and
Yeah.
said that she goes, I don't know what happened, but it felt great after.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
that was literally
Yes.
her response to
Yes.
it. So
Yes.
because she was definitely talking about that.
Yeah.
So that's so cool.
It's like a heartfelt connection,
Right.
and we kind of miss that in our society.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
we miss slowing down. We don't get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're holding that space for that person in a very loving way,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of
It's like the flow of energy gets clogged, and that's
Right.
what happens with trauma. It's like a
Right.
clench, and then it's kind of clogged there, maladaptively stored.
Right.
And so, I mean, think about internet connection. It's not something you can see, right? So
Yeah.
energy is not
Yeah.
necessarily something that you can see, but you know when it's working, you know when it's flowing, and you know when it's clogged. You know when your internet
Right.
connection is slow or
Right.
cut off. But again, you don't see it. You don't see from your phone a connection to, the modem.
Right.
But it's still real and it
Right.
still happens. And
Right.
you
so
know the effect
our
of
bodies, yes.
Yeah.
Yep, we get clogged, or we slow down, or we get blocked,
Right.
and it is real, even
Right.
if you can't see it.
So I have a friend that does healing work, and I was asking her about it, and she did say she can't do it with somebody she personally knows because it messes with it too. Like you're too invested, so it has to kind of be somebody. Is that something that you've seen?
No, I
Okay.
have actually provided it for quite a few people I know.
Okay.
But you kind of got to get out of your space.
Okay.
Like this isn't me for them.
Mm-hmm.
This is like a divine
Okay.
circle of energy.
All right.
It's
Yes.
not me.
Gotcha.
You know,
Okay.
Yeah.
and I think
You're the
that
conduit.
helps. I
Okay.
think that helps.
Yeah. Well, because I can see both ways too. I can see
Right.
being too invested
Right.
and not. Okay.
Well, with
Oh.
therapy,
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you need that.
No.
Yes.
all sorts of
100%.
biases and
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
behind the scenes
Right.
thoughts that are happening. It's
Yeah. No, I definitely knew that with that for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Can I talk a little bit about heart math?
Yeah.
Oh, you know
absolutely.
what? But I also wanted to, so the American Holistic Nursing Association,
Mm-hmm.
which is awesome if anybody is a nurse out there, it is so amazingly awesome. I just came from a conference. But anyway, their theme for this quarter was trauma-informed care,
Okay.
which I thought was really, really interesting because it's so needed. And I didn't know this was their theme.
Right.
And I actually wrote an article in here, so if anybody's interested.
That's awesome.
About how we're all connected.
Right.
The things
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Oh, definitely.
But heart math is, and this is really good for veterans, I think, in particular. It's, I can show you this tiny little monitor can measure not just your heart rate, but your heart variability.
Okay.
So you hook this up to your phone, and I can teach people how to do this. It's real simple. And you learn how to go to a space with different not really meditations, different thoughts and ways of being that can alter your mind, heart, connection, and the coherence.
Okay.
So you will see on a screen your heart rate, right?
Right.
And when you first took off, do, 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 right? And then you start doing these practices, and it starts normalizing,
Yeah.
which is really good for people who need to see it.
Mhm.
It's like
Yeah.
real-time
Yeah.
feedback, right? And I'll give an example. I started doing this. My son was deployed, and I had a rough time with that often. It was like
Yeah.
trauma,
Yeah,
because
it was.
he had been severely injured years ago. So I had a rough time every time he was deployed. So I started doing this, and I would send light, and I'm doing good, and I'm doing good. I'm watching it, and it's beautiful. And I had a split second of like remembering
Mm-hmm.
the not so good. And it was right there. I could see it, and I could catch myself.
Oh, wow.
And,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, oh no, that's not where I want to be.
Right.
Because again, our body just automatically goes in this space that's really not healthful or helpful at this point, right?
Yeah.
But it
Um,
makes sense, because if this image comes in and your
Mhm.
body registers it as my child's life is in danger,
Yes.
that is going to kick off the fight or flight response.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
I have to
Yeah.
do something, right?
Yeah.
Which is going to increase the heart rate.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like
all ties into
for
it.
anybody who's a doubter,
Yeah.
you're gonna see your own reaction.
Yeah.
Right. And something
And
you
that's
need to see to
helpful.
believe, for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
And then
Okay.
they can learn more and more practices that just keep enhancing it. It's awesome.
That
It's
is
awesome.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something I know I would appreciate, because as much as I can like feel something, like seeing it too, it's just like that next like, yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Alright. So we have some other things in this green bag here today, right?
Our goodies, our
Yeah.
goodie bags. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is so with EMDR, with trauma treatment using EMDR, we talked about the nervous system, and when you're living in the trauma, when it's stuck, what happens is the different parts of the nervous system and the brain, you kind of disconnect and reside back in the crisis center area,
Right.
right? And that's where, when you see kids with ADHD, the main component of ADHD is difficulty with working memory and executive functioning. That's the frontal lobe of the brain. That's the planning, preparing, time management,
Mhm.
follow through on tasks, right? Well, if your body is constantly residing in a state of crisis,
Mm-hmm.
it automatically disconnects, because you figure if you walk into the woods and you notice a bear approaching, you're not going to stop and say, I wonder how much time I have until the bear gets to me. I wonder what kind of a bear it is.
Right.
Oh, I wonder what time it is. No, you completely disconnect, and it's all physical, right?
Mhm.
The adrenaline pumps, the heart rate pumps, and off you go.
100%.
Or you freeze up, you hold your breath, and you hide. That's survival.
Yep.
So you disconnect from your frontal lobe and the other more adaptive areas of your brain. So with EMDR, eye movement, it refers to you're activating the left side of your brain and the right side of your brain. Left, right. And traditionally, the eye movement would be like this. You'd be following my finger,
Mm-hmm.
right? As you are holding up these images that are creating a response in your body.
Okay.
Okay? And what that does is connects the different systems back together,
Mhm.
and also it forces you to engage with your frontal lobe, because if you're moving your eyes back and forth, you have to be telling, you're planning, you're telling your eyes what to do, you're engaged in a task, while also engaged in the sensations of the trauma, and it helps to regulate those parts of the nervous system. So, not everybody can do the eye movement, and not everybody has to do the eye movement, because it's really about, it's the left, right, we call it bilateral stimulation. So,
Don't on me.
I'll have Ashley hold
Yes,
on.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. And so usually I'll pull these out and I'll say, I'm just going to have you hold these, and we're just going to notice. People are like, oh man,
What is she doing?
And so I'll just give you an opportunity to kind of
So
feel.
what am I?
You're just
Just
holding
feeling
them.
it. Just hanging out.
Yep. You're just feeling them. They don't shock you, right? Yeah.
Feels good in my hands.
Yeah.
It's like a little massage, right?
Yeah.
So they're like vibrating? Okay.
One side and the other. One side and the other.
There you go, Lisa.
And if I can say, I have known many people who have for years done talk therapy, and this is the one that, like,
Right.
thank God!
Yeah.
Well, it is interesting because you just start thinking about that, and then because you said left brain, right brain, that's what I'm thinking about right now.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Awesome. Cool.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
So that's one version of the bilateral stimulation. There's also the eye movement.
Right.
And I always bring in the eye movement. I mean, unless I have somebody who's visually impaired, which
Right.
I have had, or somebody with a traumatic brain injury. You know, oftentimes you want to stay away from the eye movement and maybe stick with a different form of the bilateral stimulation.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then there's tapping,
And vagus nerve
the
yoga.
vagus nerve
Do
yoga.
the butterfly hug.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there's a lot of really good things
Right.
to put in your toolbox.
And we're learning more and more through the study of, neuroscience and neuropsychology. We're learning more and more about this connection, the full mind, body, and spirit connection.
Right. Well, and I think, especially like with us, because we're typically working more with the physical part of the body. Obviously, personal training. We do a wellness group, so we talk about food and stuff. But we do talk about stress and all of that because people don't think about how much this in here affects your health and everything else.
Yes.
Because like bad stress is the same negative health effects as a bad diet. So it's great that like to think of that mind to help everything else because we're doing something healthy, but if you're not taking care of this, it's not gonna.
Very, very true.
Well,
Very
think
true.
about some of the activities. When you come to Plymouth Fitness, right? So I've taken Ashley's mobility and stability class, and one of the among many of the different exercises that you taught, one of them was the walking on the side of your foot, walking on the inside of your foot, and notice the bilateral stimulation that's happening.
Yeah.
Left,
Wow.
right, left, right, left, right. Notice in yoga, you do the left, the right,
Pilates
the left,
as well.
the right,
Yeah.
Pilates as well. Even walking or running on the treadmill. It's bilateral, left, right, left, right, left, right.
And you're breathing with the motion.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're bringing in that calming
Yep.
breath.
Yep. And so you don't even realize it, but you're offering healing right there for trauma. This is why it's just so important to recognize all that you're offering.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Whenever
And-
I work with like runners, we always do bilateral stuff because I know running or walking is bilateral.
Yes.
When I train bilateral.
Yep.
That is so well, and that's why yoga too. Like it's all about breathing through the exercise and being even. Same with Pilates. It's very much about evening out everything and working both sides. That's super interesting.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we go at it more physically, but we know we help with that mental part too. But we're coming from the physical side.
Yeah.
So that's super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to tell our listeners, viewers, one thing about your practice, or like one like moment you wanted to, I'm trying to say, like, one thing you want to really let people know about you guys. What would that be today?
Sit on it.
We're really good at what we do.
Well, there's that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe, so I would guess you have some people who are skeptic. So maybe talking a little bit about that. Just because like energy work and stuff, people still, you know, if they're
Yeah.
very Western medicine, they might.
Yeah.
So what would you kind of want to bring in about that?
I don't know if this is too heavy, but I wouldn't be here today if I didn't do all these things. I've survived quite a bit of heavy duty,
Yeah.
trauma-induced
Yeah.
illnesses, and I had surgeons and doctors saying to me, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it.
Okay.
And I was doing Reiki and
Right.
sound healing and all kinds of things. So, and I know I wouldn't be here if I didn't incorporate this into all the other, you know,
Right.
Western treatments I received.
Right.
How's that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that, and that's
Yeah. Yeah. So I like to help people
yeah.
access that within themselves. I'm also
Right.
a cancer guide
Okay.
from the Center for Mind Body Medicine and ran groups for people and gave them tools. So, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm super grateful to have you available and to be partnering with you.
It is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's just
I love it.
brings a whole
We're a
different
good
energy
team.
to the space.
Thank you.
In
Love
terms
that.
of healing in general, it's healing is possible. Healing is happening every day
Yes.
with all of us. Our
Yes.
bodies know how to heal.
Yes.
Mhm.
And the reason that I chose the Carin Center is because the Carin is one of the ways that Carin is, you know, symbolized is it's a guide.
Mhm.
It's a guide if you're, you know, when you're on your path. It's able to identify where you've been. It's able to identify perhaps which way you'd like to go. And so therapy oftentimes is simply that. It's just a guide, and it's a way to honor your experience, honor your healing, honor your sense of self.
I love that. I literally was in Montreal and Utah where we followed Karen's the
Yes.
entire way. That's just what that
Yes.
made me think of. Yeah.
Yeah.
To probably the most spectacular view I've ever seen in my life. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah, they're
I love it.
magic.
So you are located in Plymouth.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. And where can people find you?
So
159
159
Samoset Street.
Samoset
Okay.
Street.
You can also like hit this thing.
Awesome. Definitely have that QR code out for you.
And you can look up Carin Center Plymouth
Okay.
right online. I have a website.
Awesome.
Here too. Holistic Healing Matters RN.
Um,
.com.
And people never believe me, those are called Karens, but those are called
They are.
Karens, those
Yes,
little
they
steps.
are. They are.
Yeah.
And I made a whole bunch of them throughout COVID, and we're giving them away as gifts. So funny.
Oh yes, I saw these all in Arizona.
Yeah.
I brought one.
We
Should've
see
brought
people.
one.
I know. I should have grabbed
I
one.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that's what those are called.
We
Yeah.
see people in person. Also via telehealth.
Okay.
I'll do telehealth because I have clients who are located all across Massachusetts.
Okay.
These
Um,
guys, too.
But I see people in person. I enjoy seeing people in person. You know, I take.
I'll take it all.
Yeah.
Did you
yeah.
find the in-person a little more effective with
I
what
do.
you guys do? Well,
I do,
It does make
yeah.
sense for
Yeah.
your treatment too, because it's not just talk.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
It's the whole experience.
Personally for me,
Snaps.
I like better in person because the rapport's easier.
Yeah,
In
I
the screen,
agree.
you can't see my hands fidgeting under
Yeah.
because I'm a fidgeter and
I'm a
I need
fidgeter
somebody to
too.
say like, so your hands can't move this entire time.
Yeah, your body's really active.
Right.
Yeah, so
Right.
what's happening there? Do you notice it? Are you
Yeah.
connected to it?
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you
Yeah.
have any other questions?
No, I think that was awesome.
Awesome.
Thank
Right.
you.
Thank you
Thank you
guys
so much
much.
for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much again for listening, watching, whatever you're doing. We appreciate the support. Again, make sure you're following us on all of our socials. At the Bold Side of Wellness on Instagram is where we get most of our updates. Also, you can follow me at Honestly Lisa B and Ashley at Ashley Palmer Fit. Next month, we're going to go a little out of our norm and just a conversation with Ashley and I talking about starting your wellness journey, whether it's in fitness, changing your diet up, working on your stress levels, just some tips and tricks that we maybe have learned ourselves along the way or learned from the people that we've worked with. So you'll have that out on the 15th. Thank y'all again. Talk to you soon.